I checked into the motel just after 9 p.m., exhausted from a long drive. The place was one of those roadside motels, dimly lit, half empty, the kind where the parking lot feels too quiet. The man at the front desk was in his 50s, with deep lines on his face and the kind of blank stare that made it clear he had seen everything and cared about none of it. He slid me the key to room 109 without looking up. "You're only staying the night?" he asked. I nodded, already reaching for my bag. There was a pause, just a little too long. Then he cleared his throat. "Actually, would you mind taking a different room?" His voice was too casual, like he was forcing it. "I'll put you in 204. Better room, bigger TV." I hesitated, glancing at the key in his hand. Something about his tone bothered me. Not urgent, not forceful, just uneasy, like he was trying not to say something. "I'll just take 109, I said, reaching for the key. He let out a slow breath and handed it over, but before I could turn away, he added, "If you need anything, call the front desk." The way he said it made my stomach tighten. The walk to my room was uneventful, just rows of faded green doors and flickering yellow lights. Room 109 was at the far end, next to a stairwell leading up to the second floor. As I slid the key into the lock, I noticed something weird. The door frame had scratches near the handle, like someone had tried to force it open. Inside, the room was exactly what I expected. Outdated carpet, stiff-looking bed, a TV bolted to the dresser. But the first thing I noticed was the smell. Not bad, not rotten, just off. Like the room had been closed up for too long. I shut the door behind me, suddenly feeling like I'd made a mistake. I tossed my bag on the chair and flipped on the light by the bed. The bulb flickered once before settling into a dull yellow glow. The air felt stale, like no one had been in here for weeks. I checked the bathroom, standard motel setup, tiny sink, shower curtain that looked a little too stiff, a mirror that had streaks no one bothered to clean. But something felt off. The silence was too deep, the kind that makes you feel like you're being listened to. Brushing it off, I locked the door, latched the deadbolt, and set my phone on the nightstand. I sat on the bed and turned on the TV, more for the noise than anything. The first channel was static, so was the second. By the third, I stopped flipping. That's when I noticed it, the closet door. It was open just an inch. I couldn't remember if it had been like that when I walked in. I stared at the gap in the closet door, my pulse picking up. It wasn't wide enough to see inside, just a sliver of darkness between the door and the frame. Trying to shake the unease, I stood up and walked over. I gripped the handle, hesitated for just a second, then pulled it open. Empty. Just a handful of plastic hangers on a metal rod, nothing else. I let out a breath, shaking my head at myself. Long drive, weird motel, that was all. I shut the closet firmly and sat back down on the bed. The TV was still static. I switched it off. The room felt too quiet again. Then, a sound. Faint, almost nothing, but real. A click, like a door handle being tested. I didn't move. I just sat there, staring at the handle, heart pounding in my ears. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe it was the motel settling or a draft from somewhere. Then it happened again. A slow, deliberate turn of the knob, not a full twist, just enough to test if the door would open. I stood up, every instinct screaming at me to stay quiet. I moved toward the door as soundlessly as I could, then pressed my eye to the peephole. Nothing. The walkway outside was empty, just dim light from the flickering motel sign casting long shadows. I waited, barely breathing. Whoever it was had to still be there. They had just tested the door. Then finally, movement. Not from the peephole's view, from inside the room. A soft creak behind me. I turned fast, eyes darting around. The closet was still shut. The bathroom door was open just as I'd left it. But something in the air had changed. I wasn't alone. I stood frozen, listening. The air felt thick, charged, like someone had just exhaled in a room that should have been empty. I scanned every corner, the bed, the chair, under the desk. Nothing. Then my eyes landed on the closet. I knew I had shut it. I was sure of it. But now it was open an inch again. My stomach dropped. I took a slow step forward, pulse hammering. I reached for the handle, hesitated, and yanked the door open. Empty. But then I saw it. In the far corner near the floor, carved deep into the wood paneling of the closet wall. "Don't stay here." The scratches looked old, deep, done by someone desperate. A sharp knock at the door made me jump. "Sir?" It was the front desk guy. His voice was low, urgent. "I need you to come to the office, right now." I didn't move. The front desk guy knocked again, firmer this time. "Sir, please." Something about his tone made my skin crawl. He wasn't just calling me to the office. He was trying to get me out of the room. I turned back to the closet, my pulse hammering. The words carved into the wall, "Don't stay here," felt like a warning meant just for me. I stepped closer, running my fingers over the scratches. The edges were rough, uneven. Someone had done this in a hurry. But there was something else. Another set of marks lower near the baseboard. Smaller but deep, like fingernail scratches. Another knock. Louder. "Sir, please open the door." I swallowed hard and backed away from the closet. I had two choices: stay in here or open the door and step outside with a man who clearly knew more than he was saying. Neither option felt safe. My hand hovered over the doorknob. Every instinct told me not to open it. "Sir," the man called again, voice lower now. "Just come to the office, I promise. You don't want to be in there." I turned back to the closet. The carved words, the scratches, the door that wouldn't stay shut. Something had happened in this room. I exhaled sharply and unlocked the door. The motel manager was standing there, his face tight with something between frustration and fear. He grabbed my arm, not hard, but enough to make me step forward. "Come on," he muttered. "Quickly." I hesitated, then behind me, a soft creak. I turned just in time to see the closet door easing open. The manager yanked me into the hallway. I never went back. The place was nice enough. A small studio rental on the edge of town, clean, modern, a little impersonal, but perfect for a quick weekend stay. The host, Daniel, had great reviews. People said he was friendly and attentive. I didn't think much of it when he sent me a message right after I checked in. "Daniel, hope you got in okay. Let me know if you need anything." I replied with a quick, "All good, thanks," and left it at that. An hour later, another message. "Daniel, are you settling in okay? Weird, but whatever." I sent a thumbs-up emoji and put my phone away. By the third message, I was getting annoyed. "Daniel, do you plan on going out tonight?" I didn't reply right away. Maybe he was just being overly friendly, but something about the question felt off. After a few minutes, another message popped up. "Daniel, just wondering what time you'll be heading out." I frowned. That was different. Not just asking if I had plans, asking when I'd be gone. I typed back, "Not sure yet. Why?" He read it immediately. The typing bubble appeared, then disappeared, then came back. Finally, his reply, "Daniel, no reason. Just like to make sure my guests are comfortable. Enjoy your stay." Something about that didn't sit right, but I let it go until I realized something. The Airbnb listing had said self-check-in, no host on site, so why did it feel like he was watching me? I tried to brush it off, but the more I thought about it, the weirder it felt. Maybe he had security cameras outside just to monitor arrivals. That wasn't uncommon, right? Still, I pulled the curtains shut before settling onto the couch. A few hours passed, no more messages. I started to relax. Then, at 10:13 p.m., my phone buzzed again. "Daniel, just checking in. Still in for the night?" I stared at the screen. This was beyond friendly now. It was intrusive. I set the phone down without answering. A few minutes later, another message. Daniel, you should lock the door. I glanced at the front door. It was already locked. My stomach tightened. The door was locked. I had checked it when I came in. I picked up my phone, hands suddenly clammy, and typed, "It is locked." No response. I waited, staring at the screen. Nothing. After a few minutes, I stood up and double-checked the deadbolt anyway. Secure. The handle locked too. I even pulled on the door to be sure. I exhaled slowly, trying to laugh at myself. Maybe he was just weirdly paranoid about safety. I had just sat back down when my phone buzzed again. Daniel. Good. I was worried after what happened to the last guest. My chest went cold. Last guest? I stared at the message, my mind racing. What happened to the last guest? I typed back. No reply. I watched the screen, waiting for the typing bubble to appear. Nothing. A strange unease crept in. I opened the Airbnb listing, scrolling through the reviews. All positive. No mention of anything weird. But then I noticed something. The most recent review was from 3 months ago. Had no one stayed here since then? A soft sound broke through the silence. A creak from the front door, like someone had just leaned against it. I didn't move. I just stared at the door, heart pounding. It had definitely creaked. Not the wind, not the house settling. Something had shifted against it. I stood up as quietly as possible and stepped toward the peephole. Slowly, carefully, I leaned in. Nothing. The porch light cast a dim glow over the small front stoop, but no one was there. Then my phone vibrated in my hand. Daniel, are you sure you locked it? I backed away from the door so fast I nearly tripped. This wasn't normal. This wasn't just a weirdly attentive host. I checked the door again, my breath shaky. Deadbolt was still in place. Then I noticed something else. The doorknob lock? It was unlocked. I knew I had locked it. I was sure of it. My pulse pounded in my ears. I reached for the lock and twisted it back into place, my fingers trembling. Another message came through. Daniel, don't open the door. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. I typed, "Why? Is someone outside?" No answer. I turned back to the peephole, stomach twisting. The porch was still empty. But the longer I looked, the more I noticed something was off. The porch light. It was swaying slightly, like someone had just brushed past it. Someone had been there. Maybe still was. I backed away from the door, my breath shallow. Every instinct screamed at me to get out. I grabbed my keys and phone, moving toward the back door. Then my phone buzzed again. Daniel, stay inside. I'm almost there. Almost there? I hesitated, fingers tightening around the doorknob. Then, footsteps on the porch. Slow, heavy, right outside the front door. I held my breath. The footsteps stopped. A long, awful silence. Then, the doorknob turned, slowly, carefully, testing the lock. I bolted out the back, ran to my car, and tore out of the driveway. I didn't stop driving for miles. Daniel sent one final message. You shouldn't have left the door unlocked. I never found out what he meant. I never went back. The drive to the rental was long, the last stretch winding through empty roads and thick trees. The house itself was nice, one of those modern cabins listed as secluded, but still close enough to town. I parked, grabbed my bag, and checked the Airbnb app for instructions. Self-check-in lockbox by the door. The host, Karen, had sent me the code that morning. The key was right where it should be. I let myself in, flicking on the lights. The place smelled faintly of wood and cleaning spray, nothing out of the ordinary. Then I noticed something. A pair of shoes by the door. Not mine. I froze, staring at the shoes. Men's sneakers, slightly worn, placed neatly by the door like someone had just taken them off. My first thought was that the cleaner forgot to take them. but something about them felt recent. Not dusty, not shoved aside, like they belonged to someone still here. I walked further in, scanning the space. The living room was tidy, the kitchen spotless. Nothing felt lived in. But then I noticed something else. A jacket draped over the back of a chair. I moved cautiously toward the jacket, my heartbeat picking up. It was a dark windbreaker, slightly crumpled, with a faint smell of cologne. Someone had worn it recently. I glanced around the open concept space, scanning for any sign that someone was still here. The bedroom doors were closed, the blinds drawn. Everything was silent except for the distant hum of the fridge. My phone was still open to the Airbnb app, so I checked the listing again. Entire home, it read. No mention of shared spaces, no other guests. I swiped to the reviews, nothing but glowing 5-star ratings. Trying to shake the unease, I picked up the jacket and draped it over the railing by the door. Maybe the cleaner forgot it. Maybe the last guest left it behind. Either way, I told myself it didn't matter. Until I saw the suitcase. It was tucked just beside the couch, partially hidden from view. A black rolling suitcase, zipped shut, with a luggage tag dangling from the handle. I hesitated, then crouched down to check the tag. The name was faded, smudged with wear, but one thing was clear. This wasn't mine. I stood up quickly, scanning the room again. My brain scrambled for an explanation. Maybe the last guest forgot it. But why would the host leave it here? And why did everything else seem spotless except for these few, very personal things? I reached for my phone, ready to message Karen, when I heard it. A soft creak from the hallway. One of the bedroom doors had just shifted. I froze, gripping my phone tight. The house was silent again, but I knew what I heard. The faint creak of a door moving. Too deliberate to be the wind, too soft to be the house settling. Slowly, I stepped toward the hallway. There were 2 bedrooms. Both doors were closed, but now I could see it. One of them just slightly ajar. Not much, just an inch or 2. I swallowed hard and forced myself forward. My fingers brushed the doorknob, hesitating. What was I expecting? Someone standing there, waiting? A forgotten guest who somehow never left? I pushed the door open. The room was empty. The bed was neatly made, the nightstand empty, the closet doors closed. Nothing about the room looked out of place, but I knew the door had moved. I checked the bathroom, same thing, clean, unused, but my skin prickled as I turned back toward the hallway. Something felt off, like I had just missed something. Then I noticed the window. The blinds were pulled halfway down, but the latch, it was unlocked. Had someone been inside, or had they left? I stared at the window latch, my breath tight in my chest. The listing instructions had been clear. Guests were asked to keep all windows locked for security reasons, but this one had been undone, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. Had I missed something when I checked the room? I turned back to the closet. It was a sliding door, the kind that never fully seals shut. I stepped closer and reached for the handle, my fingers tense around the wood. With a deep breath, I slid it open in one swift motion. Empty. Just a row of hangers and a folded extra blanket on the shelf. But then my eyes drifted lower, right to the floor. The carpet there was flattened, pressed down in a way that didn't match the rest, like someone had been sitting there. A cold wave passed through me. Had someone been in this room just before I arrived? I backed away from the closet, my heart hammering. Every logical part of me wanted to explain it away. Maybe the cleaner had sat there while tidying up. Maybe it meant nothing. But then I noticed something else. On the edge of the shelf, just above the flattened carpet, a single fingerprint smudged into the dust. Not old, fresh. I grabbed my bag and rushed toward the door, my hands shaking as I fumbled with the lock. As I yanked it open, I did one last scan of the room, every nerve in my body screaming at me to leave. That's when I saw it. The bedroom door, the one I had left wide open, was now halfway shut. Have you ever found something strange in an Airbnb? Drop your story below. Don't forget to subscribe for more Airbnb horror stories like this one. Stay curious and stay safe.